Yo, what's up? What's up? What's up, Gio? We can't hear you, my man. We can't hear you though. Yeah, we can't hear you, brother.
Can't hear you, Gio.
Bro, I don't know if it's just me or can you guys hear Gio? I don't know if I can. I can't hear you, Gio.
I can't hear you either, bro.
Yeah, can you guys hear him? Yeah, that's what I thought.
You missed the whole intro. Just kidding.
Yeah,
All
we
right,
can.
can you guys hear me now?
Yes,
There
sir.
you go.
Hey, there's the energy. Come on, Mel.
Yeah.
Let's get it.
Dude, the whole time I thought you could hear me. I mean, to be honest with you, all the energy you had. No, I'm kidding. But once again, so I'm looking at the names. We got Gabby, we have Sean, we have Mo, we have Enrique, and we have Takira. And then we have the crowd here. Here, let me spin this real quick so you can see these beautiful, talented individuals. All right. All right. I love it. Hey, so real quick, set that up so you can see the whiteboard a little bit. That's crooked. I'm sorry. I had to move it. But hey, real quick, guys, I'm excited. I'm privileged. I'm honored to be able to do and run this training class. I know it's going to be one of your last days. You guys, I mean, think about it, how far you've come and how much you know now. Imagine a month from now, imagine 2 months from now, you guys are going to be literally just just so much education, so much knowledge, so much implementation, right? So I'm excited for you guys. I'm pumped up. I love the energy that you guys are presenting as well. So there's no secret to why they had me in charge of the closing workshop. All right. Been known to close a little bit, right? So those of you guys that don't know me, just to like kind of properly introduce myself, like I said, I'm the regional director out here. I was actually the top producer in the company 2017, 2018, and for the whole year. I mean, for the whole entire year, it took a lot. Obviously, there's some competitors in this company. I was the March Madness winner. When you win March Madness over at the company, over at the Pittsburgh office, Arius Agencies, there's like 13 different offices out there. When you win March Madness there, they put up the top performers and things of that sort. When you win it there, you win a car. That's how big this deal is, right? So March Madness winner, been blessed enough to be able to create the team. Now we have the #1 RGA team in the world. And you guys didn't even get started yet. So how about that? Now, I don't say any of that to brag or boast. I just simply say that because, did you ever hear that like note takers are money makers? You ever hear that? Right? And did you ever hear that like knowledge is power? Right? That's a bunch of BS. All right. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge doesn't mean anything. Okay. It's the implementation that truly creates the power. I could have all the knowledge in the world if I stack it away, like you see right here, these stacks of paper. If I'm not implementing, I'm not doing anything. All right. So we got to implement this stuff. We got to make sure we're taking some notes, absorb this stuff. I mean, to be honest with you, I took everything, I kind of can put together and put it into a closing workshop for you guys. And some of this stuff is Grant Cardone, Sell or Be Sold. Some of this stuff is just stuff I've learned over time from people in the deal. Some of the stuff I kind of already knew. Some of this stuff is common sense, but I want you guys to be able to take this stuff and implement it immediately. So we'll just go ahead and get started. Just so you guys know, for time purposes, in case you guys are planning, I have a meeting at 2. So this is going to be from 1 to 2, basically. Okay. So you guys are just going to solid hour. Now, since it's a little bit shorter, I need everybody to stay with me. All right. I need some head nods. Sometimes I look at the screen. I'm like, is this frozen? Okay. So, head nods. I need some excitement. I'm just going to rip it for an hour so you guys can get the most fire out of it. Okay. So first thing I need you guys to understand, okay, when it comes to closing sales, right? What is the definition of sales, right? Sales is a transfer of belief, right? When you're closing, when you're selling, you have to believe, okay? we have to believe. We have to have passion. We have to have energy, right? You know that they say that the eyes are the window to a man or a woman's soul, right? So you got to be able to look these people in the eye, and you got to be able to transfer your belief out of you into them, okay? You got to be able to transfer that belief into them, because at the end of the day, there's always a sale in the house. Whether you guys realize it or not, there's always going to be a sale. It's either you're selling them on why they need it, or at the end of it, they're going to sell you on why they don't need it. But at
Gio,
the
can
end
you
of the day,
repeat
there's
about
going
the
to
eyes thing? Can you just repeat about that little phrase about what you said about the eyes? The eyes have what?
Yeah, no problem. So the eyes are the window to a man or a woman's soul. So you have to be able to look these people in the eyes and be able to tell them the deal. You have to be able to tell them, because they're going to see no problem. And they're going to see right through and sniff right through the BS, right? They're going to see the money signs in your eyes if you're just looking for the money, right? So you have to be sold. You have to be sold. And to be honest with you, I don't know how you can not be sold on something like life insurance. I think people are scared to talk about life insurance because it kind of goes with death and things of that sort. But realistically, I wouldn't rather represent another product. I would not rather represent another product than life insurance. Swear. You know, people need life insurance. People do not need, you know, Louis Vuitton belt. People don't need a nice pair of shoes. People don't need a brand new Mercedes Benz. People don't need a suit. So with things like this, when we're talking about life insurance, this is something that we absolutely 110% need. Okay. Because if you ask people, most people, right? If you ask most people, especially our specific niche market, man, they're super blue collar. They love their family. If you ask them the number one most important thing in their life, I can guarantee you they would say their family. They would say their family. And the thing is, they're allocating their money in areas they feel are more important. And there's nothing more important than their family, right? Because the reality of what it is, man, people have insurance on a lot of different things, but you're telling me you don't have insurance on Joe? You don't have insurance on the wife? Because here's the thing. People will have cell phone insurance in case their cell phone breaks, right? People will have insurance on their car in case something happens with their car. People will have homeowners insurance in case there's a flood or, God forbid, there's like a fire that breaks out, right? But someone doesn't have life insurance on themselves? Doesn't that sound backwards? Because here's the thing. If my cell phone broke, if your cell phone broke, if Joe Mary's cell phone broke, guess what? That's replaceable. You can replace that, okay? If the car breaks down, right, you can replace that. If, God forbid, as horrible as it sounds, if the house burned down, that's freaking horrible to think about. But the reality of what it is, it's replaceable. Joe, on the other hand, Joe gets a cut on his arm. Yeah, we can stitch that up. He breaks his leg. Yeah, we can put a cast on it. But if Joe's heart stops beating, that shit is irreplaceable. That stuff you can't replace. You see what I'm saying? So like having insurance, because here's the thing. Without Joe, without the husband, without the wife, them two working together to make the ends meet, without being able to provide the income, without them, there wouldn't be a cell phone, right? There wouldn't be a car. There wouldn't be a home. So we need to understand and be completely sold and realize that without them, none of that other shit even matters. Because without them, it doesn't exist. So we have to understand, we got to be so freaking sold. There's nothing more important. As a matter of fact, I got a custom suit, and in the suit, you know what I put in it? I put a salesman is a sold man. You got to be sold. You got to be sold. All right. So there's three things that you need to be sold on. Three things. Okay. You just have to 110% before you even try and pick up the phone and call Joe, before you even try and pick up the phone and call Bill, before you even pick up a lead, before you even enter the office, you need to be sold on 3 things. Okay. The first thing that you have to 110% be sold on is you. They buy 3 things, right? They buy you first, then they buy the company, then they buy the product. Right? They buy you first, right? When's the last time you bought something off someone that you just despised, you just didn't like? Imagine going to a car lot, you go up and the dude's just like a straight up jerk to you. Like, you're 9 times out of 10 probably not going to buy from that place unless it's just an exclusive item that you can't get anywhere else. But 9 times out of 10, they buy you first. So you have to be 110% sold on yourself, right? You might not be, I mean, you're in training. You might not even be half as good as Tommy right now. No, it might not even be half as good as your manager right now, but you have to create confidence and you have to believe in yourself. Like literally when I get a lead pack, I'm like, you know what? I got Joe, Mary, I got these people for a reason. If it was up to me, it'll be, right? You got to be confident on yourself. And here's the thing, I always say this, but if you do your best, like you're sitting with somebody, right? And you're doing your best, you're freaking, you know your rebuttals, you crushed the script, you gained control, you built rapport, you crushed it. And they don't buy, shame on them, okay? But if you go in there, you're stumbling over your script, you barely know how to say the why we're there, at the end, you don't know your closes, then shame on you. So this is how you start to get sold on yourself, though, is by creating the repetition. You got to rep it out, rep it out, rep it out. It's not what you do from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. That's great, but it's what you do from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. that truly creates the confidence. You know, when we play sports, just like Tommy said, you go up at bat, you're not just doing that in practice. You need to do that after practice, right? So this is how you develop confidence in yourself, right? This is how you start to get really sold on you being a good insurance agent, right? Nobody grew up. I don't think anybody, you know, when you guys were kids, I don't think when your mom or dad asked you what you wanted to do when you're older, I don't think anybody said, I want to be a life insurance agent, right? I don't think anybody said that really, but you got to be sold and take pride and understand that you got to be sold on it. Okay. So that's the first thing they buy. The second thing is they buy the company. They buy the company. Okay. They buy the company. I don't know about you guys, but I am sold on this company. Okay. I'm freaking sold. Okay. Just for an example, just one of the many, right? So being sold on the company, this is one reason why I would just be so sold on this company. The thing is, this company, so we came out here, right? We broke every single record in company history in Little Pittsburgh. Come out here, freaking, we opened up this beautiful office and opened up the doors. We're all excited. And then bam, the pandemic hits us. Okay. Now you guys heard, and I'm not knocking any other company or anything like that, but you guys probably heard a lot of companies went under. A lot of companies went out of business, right? A lot of companies are barely staying afloat. Well, what happened with us, and you guys might have heard this before, but Darwin's the one that said it originally. It's not those animals that were the strongest, the fastest, the heaviest, right? That lived the longest. It was those that were the most adaptable, So what happened with our company, and that same thing applies in business, right? Companies didn't adapt. When the pandemic hit, they didn't really adapt. Our company, dude, I was so impressed. They literally, within a week, adapted and completely changed from being the largest provider of benefits in person to now changing to virtual. I didn't even know what Zoom was before we went virtual. Literally adapting over to not only staying above float, we never did more than $7 million in a week. And during the pandemic, during everything that was going on, we did $9 million in 1 week. Talk about being sold. Yo, this thing is recession proof, depression proof. Since we're in Chicago, I like to say bulletproof. We're not going anywhere. All right. We're not going anywhere. All right. So you got to be sold. I mean, the company got your back, right? Company got your back. Third thing is the products, right? I can go more in detail, but just for lack of time, the products. Okay. Products. You got to be sold on the products. Another thing, I'll bring up the example of the pandemic as well. Dude, there's a lot of companies, and like I said, I'm not knocking any other companies, but there's a lot of companies that sell products that are strictly dependent on the stock market, right? You get a lot of, variable, universal type of policies. And like I said, I'm not knocking any other company or anything like that or any other products, but there was a lot of people that when they, passed away during the pandemic or needed money during a hardworking time, they tried to pull from those policies that were dependent on the stock market. And what happened? Right? They couldn't pull anything out. Imagine this. Imagine you've been paying your whole life on something, and then now you need it. When you absolutely need it, you're not able to take from it. Our company, we have 100% old school through our union agreement, just have old school 100% whole life. We're not allowed to even carry anything that's not guaranteed because they want black and white. That's what the union members wanted. They didn't want anything that had gray areas. Okay. We never, ever laid anybody off since we've been around 70 years, right? Talk about being sold in the company. Products paid out every single claim. There's never a time where we don't pay out a claim. So you got to understand, guys, you have to be sold yourself because it's internal objections versus external objections is what it is. Internal objections versus external. Okay. Internal is like this. This is an example of an internal objection. Man, I'm sold on me. I'm sold on the company. But I'll tell you what, I honestly think for that person, I think $300 a month is way too much. So what happens is you present the options not very confidently, okay? And what happens is it transfers over. So your internal objection allowed you to get external objections, right? There's this thing, it's called emotional contagion. And I talk about this a lot with my team. They've heard me say it 100 times. It's called emotional contagion. And what that means is if you're excited, people are going to be excited. If you're nervous to show them $300 a month or $500 a month, they're going to be nervous to make a decision because it's going to transfer over. So you have to exude confidence, right? You have to say it with confidence. When you're confident, they're going to be confident in making the decision. So it's that internal objection versus external. External is like, hey, I want to think about it. If you actually believe in your heart that they should think about it, or that, hey, this is too much, and you're like, man, I kind of agree with Joe. It is too much. Dude, it's going to transfer over, and it's going to be very hard to beat external objections if you're not internally sold yourself. You understand? So you guys with me? So internal objections. All right. All right, good. So last couple of things here, or really the next things. The only thing they can really say, it's funny because you really want to be proactive. Okay. I thought that like in the beginning, I was like, man, I would go back and forth for 30 minutes with somebody. And I would literally like walk out and I'd be like, I'm the man, because I closed that person, right? I thought like going back and forth was cool. Like, oh, I got it. But what I found out was that the best closers out there, they are the best at being proactive. They don't even have to close. And to be honest with you, I don't say this to be arrogant whatsoever. I mean, it took me a lot of time. I say this with humility because I got beat up a lot. But over time, now, if you ever see me in the field or you see me presenting, I mean, the options are always very large. I really don't get any objections. They usually just pick an option. It's crazy. But like in the beginning, I want to think about it. I'd go back and forth with Joe and Mary. I cared so much that literally I'm like, how don't they get it? But I realized that it was things that I was doing proactively. So here's how our pitch has to be. Let me see if I can find a market that works. All right. You guys can see that. Okay. So there's two different ways to have your presentation. Okay. Just gonna move this over here real Okay, so you can have a presentation that looks like this, or you can have a presentation that looks like this. If you're experiencing a ton of objections at the end, like they're like, I want to think about it, I can't afford it. That's kind of normal because we're brand new and we're probably missing some things and things of that sort. But I promise you, if it's a month later, 2 months later, and you still are just getting, I want to think about it, I can't afford it, right? To be honest with you, you kind of got to look and self-evaluate. What I've always told people is like, you need to take your presentation, you need to find the receipt. It's busted. You need to go return it. I just spit everywhere, by the way. Sorry about that. You need to return it and you need to get a new one. Okay. That's what it comes down to. So you have to start with certain things, and I'll kind of go over each thing, but you have to start. So for instance, if you have a presentation, right? And in the beginning, we always get the control, right? Control is very, very, very important. Okay. Control may be the most important thing. Okay. I'll tell you what, you guys are going to get this, but.
Hey, Gio. Sorry to interrupt you, man. Could you write with another pen? Because if you're planning to write a lot of stuff, we can't really see anything.
Or
I'm just trying to play a
layout.
guess game.
Thank you for your advice. Can you see us now?
Yeah, much better, man.
Mo, you're a loser. Can you see it?
I can see it now.
Mo, this is, no, I'm just kidding. This isn't you, buddy, but can you see that okay now?
Yeah. It's an upside down triangle and a triangle. Gotcha. Got it.
This camera is not like the one that we usually have. This camera, I don't even know whose this is, but can you see it says loser?
Yeah.
So we're losing in the presentation. When we're not enrolling people, we're losing, right? And I'll tell you what, how do you become a closer? How do you go from a loser to a closer? Who knows it? Everybody should know this.
Control.
How do you
Closing.
like you're losing, right? You're freaking they're selling you, you're not selling them. You're freaking being a loser, right? We're losing the battles. How do you become a closer?
I don't know. You stop selling, you start closing.
Know your scripts, know the rebuttals, have that all proactive into the call, take control. Don't let them take anything from you.
You put the ball in their court and you just sit silently. Whoever speaks first loses.
I love these answers. I love the feedback. This is great. I love it. Anybody here? Closer's mentality. I like it. All right. I wasn't trying to trick you guys, but all you do is add a C. All you do is add a C, baby. So in order to become from a loser to a closer, you got to add a C. And the C stands for control. All right. Control. Control, dude, control may be the most important thing. You don't even have to say things in the most ideal way. If you have the control, they'll listen to you. If they listen to you, the stuff sells itself. Let's just call it what it is, right? So you need to understand that you have to establish a control. As soon as I get on the Zoom, I'm not like, hey, Mary. I'm like this. I'm like, hey, real quick, can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Can you see me? Okay, great. It's Joe and Mary, right? Okay, go ahead and grab that quality control confirmation number. You're going to need that to be able to receive your benefits, okay? Go ahead and grab that. Do it, establishing control immediately, okay? And it starts on the phone, really, and you need to maintain it in the home, but you got to get them to do things for you, right? You got to establish, and you need to say it with confidence, right? You think a police officer goes to your car and says, hey, Mo, is it okay if I get your license and your registration? Is that okay? You'd be like, just do it a real cop? Like, get out of here, buddy. You know what I mean? No, they say license, registration. You're like, all right, buddy. Yeah, I got you. You know what I mean? Or a doctor. You know, a doctor's busy, important. They're in control, right? They go in, they put your arm out, do this, do that. You just do what they say. That's control, right? You need to be telling them in a nice way. I'm smirking a little bit. I'm not just like, grab me a pen and paper. You know, I'm like, hey, I tell them why. I'm like, hey, real quick, and you're going to want to grab a pen, paper. There's going to be a ton of very important information regarding your benefits. So I need to make sure you have a pen and paper. Oh, and while you're grabbing that, make sure you guys get to a table, okay? I need you guys both together, okay? How long you guys been together for? 10 years, that's a long time. I'll tell you what, I know you guys can get a little closer. Let me see you guys get closer. Like you're not like being a jerk about it, but you're kind of gaining the control and getting them involved. Okay. I'll tell you what, I got to hear the story when you guys first met. But before we do that, let me see you guys get closer. All right. All right. Perfect. So you're like really animated, really like you're an actor, man. Lights, camera, action. Right. So control, get them to grab the pen and paper. Quality control number, right? Make sure if the lights are messed up like they are right now, I would tell them to turn on the lights, right? You can tell them to turn off the TV or tell them to move closer, make sure they get to a table. You need to do this stuff, guys. Remember I said when I was speaking for the team, being the #1 MGA team, I said, we serve, we don't sell, but the better we are at the sales process, the better we're going to be able to serve. So you got to understand the psychology behind this stuff. You got to get really smart with the sales process or we're going to get beat. We're going to start losing. Okay. So starts with control. Okay. Now, if you don't get a whole lot of control in the beginning, okay. No, you can't really see the marker, but now you probably can. If we don't get a whole lot of control in the beginning, okay, messed that up. But if we don't get a whole lot of control in the beginning, rapport, man, I use so much of the rapport in the beginning to close. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. In order to ask for somebody's hand, you have to ask for their heart first. Okay? You got to be really good with rapport. Rapport, I mean, I'm infamous for probably building too much rapport, you know what I mean? But I'll build a lot of rapport because I want to build a relationship. We have a very genuine approach. I want to get to know these people, not because I just want to, question the question. You want to ask a question and actually get to know, use active listening and really like get to know these people. Like, I'll be honest with you. Sometimes when I was in a sit, I would get to know Joe so well or Mary so well that literally I'd be like, this man is like the coolest guy ever. And then I would my crazy mind start to think, I'm like, I'd literally envision him. And I know it sounds crazy, but I would literally envision him dying. And it wasn't intentional. I was just like, this guy is such a good guy. She's a stay-at-home mom. She's pregnant. Like if he died right now, dude, they would be screwed. So I'm like, it would like make me like tense up and I'm like, oh, I got to make sure like that's the type of relationship you want to build with these people. Like you have the true utmost just care for them and you want to protect them. And that goes back on being really sold on your products. You want to make sure like it should feel detrimental if they don't buy your products. It should like, dude, I'm not even joking. If I didn't make a sale, it wasn't about the sale. If I didn't enroll the family member and take care of them, I literally would lose sleep. I'd be thinking about it over and over and over again. Like, dude, like, how did I miss this? I'm like, I gotta practice. And I would stay up all night and freaking practice like a maniac, you know what I mean? But that's what it takes, that obsession. So rapport is very huge because you can use, like if he told you that his dad died at 50 and he's 48, you know what I mean? You better believe at the end, he tries to tell me, I want to think about this. I'm pretty healthy right now. You better believe I'm going to be like, no, I get where you're coming from. I understand. But Joe, and I'm going to bring that up. Any bit of rapport, like you're able to use, and you're not trying to use it against them as leverage. It's just about being smart, right? It's about being smart. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a very, like you want to use logic, right? You want to close with logic, but like when you're in the midst of the presentation, the needs analysis is very emotional. I don't laugh during the needs at all. I'm not laughing during, I'm super serious. Like I'm like, you see my term and whole life video, right? That's exactly how I am, right? So don't really build a lot of rapport. Next thing I want to talk about is tie downs, okay? A tie down is this. Tie down is, does that make sense? Yes. Do you see why that's so important, Joe and Mary? Yes. Do you see why that's exactly why we have to do this today? Okay. I'm just writing something down before I forget. Okay, here we go. Yeah, do you see why we have to do this today? Okay. Do you guys see why we have to those are called tie downs. There's even double tie downs. Like some people will literally, I had a trainee, I taught him tie downs and he started to just go on a whole different level with it. He's like, does that make sense, Joe? They would go to say yes and he'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, Joe. Does that make sense? He would literally do it twice. That's a double tie down. Or you'd say, does that make sense? Okay. Do you see why that's so important for you guys though? Okay, perfect. I just need to make sure. Now you're not getting a yeah. You're getting a yes. 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 They say for you to be a 50% closer or better, you need to use 50 tie downs and get 50 yeses throughout the whole presentation. In order to be a 50% closer or better, you need to use 50 tie downs and get 50 yeses throughout the whole presentation. Here's the reason why. Is psychology tells you if you're getting yes at the beginning, hey, Joe, can you hear me? Yes. Can you see me? Yes. You have that quality control number, right? Yes. Joe, Mary, right? Yes. Go to the table? Yes. And then throughout, does that make sense? Yes. They've been doing this the whole time, right? Do you think that if you get these small little yeses in the middle, in the beginning, toward the end, you think they're going to go like this? Oh, no, I don't want this program. No, the psychology doesn't say that, right? Psychology tells you that when you get these small yeses in the beginning, you're going to get the big yes at the end.
That's smart.
Yep. So that's the psychology right there. So you want to get those yeses, right? The other thing, so that's tie-in. Oh, and what's that? What else that's called is getting their buy-in. You're also getting their buy-in. Okay. So now they're bought in. You're saying, does that make sense? They're bought into what you're selling them. That's when you start to transfer that belief over. Now they're bought in. They're buying. They're starting to get sold. Okay. The other thing is you have to use two words that you have to use throughout the whole presentation. Watch your recording and see how many times you're saying this. 2 words. Today is one of them. Today, 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 today. Do you see why this is so important for us to do this today, Joe and Mary? Do you see exactly why they set this up for you guys today? Today, today, today. If Joe tries to tell me about tomorrow, I'm like, Joe, there is no tomorrow. I'm thinking in my mind, like, there is no tomorrow. What are we talking about tomorrow? We've been talking about today all day. What are we talking about tomorrow for? And everything that we did in the past isn't chasing us. So it's about today because we're not promised tomorrow. You understand? So that's another thing. And then the last thing you want to do throughout is say the word problem, concern, issue, problem, concern, issue. Dude, if I ran out there and I said, guys, we have a problem. Naturally, everybody's going to run over and be like, you all right, Joe? What's the problem? Right? You got to say problem, concern, issue so many times throughout the presentation that they're like, dude, there's a serious problem, right? With my coverage or you got to say it over and over again. And you need to understand this too. You need to sell the problem and concern. A lot of times people are like, oh, here's our freedom of choice certificate. And they're trying to sell the freedom of choice. That's the solution to a problem. But you have to sell the problem. That's how they appreciate the solution. So many people are fixated on selling the wrong things. You can't sell, that's why we go over term first, then whole life. We create a problem with term then we go over whole. That's why before we go to the freedom of choice, we always say things like, the prepaid funerals, people actually used to prepay their funerals. Now, obviously people don't do that, right? We bring up a whole problem and then we present the solution. Okay. So when we do this throughout the presentation, right, we know our script sounds good, right? When we don't do control, don't do problem, don't do today, our script is off. Dude, you're literally going to spend all this time trying to close at the end, right? That's what I was doing. I thought I was good because I would go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But I was closing so much at the end. Now, here's the thing. If you ever have to be reactive, because that would be reactive, instead of being proactive like this one, you're kind of being reactive. Now, if you ever do have to be reactive, because it still does happen, I can't say That doesn't happen. I just wrote 27 grand recently, almost 28 grand in a week. And it was 26 members, 23 enrollments. You think some of those people didn't say, Gio, I don't want to do this today. You think all 23 were just pick an option, right? It was hard, right? So the thing is, if you ever have to be reactive, you need to understand that they got two plays they can run. I don't care if you're the best football team on planet Earth. If I know you can only run sweep left or sweep right, I'm stopping you because there's two plays that you could run. So it's, I want to think about it and I can't afford it. That's the only plays they can run is I want to think about it. So you need to master at least 3. I always say 5, but let's just say even 3. I want to think about it. And 3, I can't afford it. You have to memorize 3 of them each. 3 each, okay? Like literally that should be all you're talking about. Like I should see you in the hallway and I should be like, hey, what's up? I want to think about it. And you're like, what the hell? You know, I call you, I'm like, hey, I can't afford it. You're like, oh, you got to be on your toes. Like no one hesitates if I'm like, hey, what's your name, Paul? Or what's your name? You know, you say Paul Precos. Like you don't hesitate when you say your name. You don't feel nervous when you say your name. So you shouldn't feel nervous. You know, the only time we feel pressure is when we didn't really prepare ourselves. It's the only time we feel pressure. So you got to prepare yourself over and over and over and over again. That way you don't feel pressure. The only time, like when I go up there and speak, I used to get all nervous, stuff like that, but I prepare for it. There's no way. Michael Jordan got quoted saying this. They said, do you ever get nervous? Michael Jordan said, I mean, it's normal to get excited, but I'm very confident in my abilities. I'm very confident in my skills. I'm confident in how hard I've worked at. I don't get nervous. I get excited, but I know and I'm confident in my abilities, right? So like at the end of the day, you really, if you practice, you shouldn't feel nervous at the end. You shouldn't feel any pressure. So here's how it needs to work. You need to get a lot of control, a lot of rapport, tie downs, problem, concern, today. Dude, at the end, you're not going to have to close. That's how your pitch needs to be. Very, very proactive so that you're not going to spend a whole lot of time closing. Okay? You're not going to spend a whole lot of time closing. All right, last couple of things, guys. Last couple of things. So, you know, when it comes down to the end, there's really just a recipe to this stuff. All right? There's really a sincere recipe, okay? And, you know, just for lack of time, I'm going to skip over this, but pretty much covered most of the stuff so far. The last thing is the recipe, okay? There's a recipe for a close. There's a recipe to this stuff, okay? So before I go over the recipe, you need to know what the most important thing in selling is, okay? So I'm going to go over a recipe. It's like a 5-step recipe to the close, but before that, I need you to first know what the number 1 rule of selling is. This is the number 1 rule of closing, selling. And dude, once I mastered this, dude, it was game over. It was game over. So once I mastered this recipe and also the number 1 rule of selling. So the number 1 rule of selling is you always, always, always agree with them. It's as simple as that. You always agree with them. Okay? You always agree. You know that saying that the customer is always right? Well, the customer is not always right. Let's just call it what it is. But if you're trying to enroll them and protect them, you need to understand that they are right. What I mean by that is you need to agree with their perception. If they say, I want to think about it, a sure way to allow them to solidify their decision is by saying and disagreeing with their decision. Oh, you shouldn't want to think about it. Don't you care about your family? You know what I mean? Like that's not going to go over well, right? So you have to agree with that, whatever their perception is. If they think this wall is gray and I know it's not gray, well, it's gray. It's gray. You're trying to get the enrollment, it's gray. Now, I don't mean this in a manipulative way, like, oh, I'm just agreeing with them. No, this is literally learning the psychology behind this, because when you agree with the perception, right, now they're at least more willing to listen to your rebuttal. Okay, if that makes sense. So there's five rules, or it's really going to be five things for the recipe for close. 5 recipe things for close. Okay. So technically they give you an objection, right? They give you, I want to think about it, or I can't afford it, right? Okay. This is the 5-step recipe. I couldn't say it earlier, but that's what I meant, the 5-step recipe. So the first thing, they give you an objection, right? You come back with a rebuttal. So let's just say someone gives you an objection, okay? The first thing, the first step is you act calm, all right? When I was in homes, I would physically sit back in my chair a little bit, right? You don't want to be calm the whole time. They say, I want to think about it. You're like, but Joe, you start panicking. It's going to look like it really does make a difference to you, right? So act calm. As a matter of fact, here, I'll do it on the camera. Say I want to think about it. Here's what you don't want to do, and here's what you do want to do. Okay, say I want to think about it.
I want to think about it.
Yeah, Joe, no, I get where you're coming from, but the thing is, man, like you're like, whoa, okay. Now, Mo, you say it again, okay?
Hey, Gio, I want to think about it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. See that awkward silence, right? You almost said something again too. You said, I want to think about it. And
I was going to say something else.
Yeah, right. You ever go on like a first date and I don't know, maybe she's not talking, you're not talking, and it's really awkward.
And you're
right?
just blabbing.
Yeah. People naturally hate silence. They don't. So the last thing you want to do is immediately, like a lot of times people will literally be like, I think we should think about it. And I just stay out of the camera, right? I stay out of the camera because then they go, well, Mary, what do you think? Now they start talking to each other. Let them close themselves. Okay. Now I always do this thing and I teach my guys, I'm sure that you guys pretty much do the same thing, but we say at the end, when we're presenting the options, we say, which one makes the most sense to you and which one's going to fit the need the best for you and your family today. And then we get out of the screen. So when they say, I want to think about it, don't just run over or, I'll kind of go over the recipe. I don't want to spill the rest of it, but you definitely right there. Okay. You just need to make sure that you're not just jumping in. You want to act calm. Okay. The second thing, number 2, is you agree, understand, and show empathy. This is what I was talking about. Okay. Most important rule of selling. You need to agree with the perception. Just because we're from the union doesn't mean they have to buy from us. Okay. Just because we're contracted doesn't mean they need to buy from us. They're normal people just like us. You ever say you want to think about it to someone that's trying to sell you something? They're good people. They want to make a good decision just like us. You know what I mean? So we need to understand where they're coming from. How do I know this is real? Oh, no, I totally understand. There's a lot of telemarketers, scammers out there. To be honest with you, Joe and Mary, I'd probably feel the same way. See how I just agreed? And I told them, yeah, there's a lot of telemarketers, scammers. I agree with you, right? So you agree with them. The third thing is now you proceed to rebuttal. You see that? I did 2 steps before I did go right to the rebuttal like most people would. Remember, the professional stays calm in the close. The professional stays calm when it gets uncomfortable. The amateur panics, right? They haven't prepared themselves. So you got to be a professional here. Now, that's the third thing. Fourth thing is go to the close. Now, we do this on the phones all the time. So go to the close is number 4. We do this all the time, right? So we say, on the phones, for instance, we'll say, they'll say, can you just mail it out? That'd make my life a lot easier. But the company does require us to explain it, answer any questions, get you all caught up with the other members. Then what do? Proceed to rebuttal. We don't just stop there and wait for them to fall into our laps, right? We literally from there say, so like I said, we got to figure out, is it anytime between 6 and 7 or between 7 and 8? See how you go right back to it. So you got to get really good at rebuttal, then close. I used to go back and forth with people for 30 minutes. And I played my recording to my manager. He said, dude, you just keep rebuttaling and waiting for them to answer. You need to go right back to the answers to this. So in this case, you say, so like I said, you know, we just need to figure out, you know, which option makes the most sense to you and which one's going to, you know, fit the need the best for you and your family. So you rebuttal and go right back to the options. Keep the pressure on the options. Okay. And let's see who can guess number 5. Who can guess number 5? So number 1 was act calm. Number 2 was agree, understand, show empathy. Number 3 was proceed to rebuttal. Number 4 is close. And what's number 5?
Solidify.
Ah, that's after the close. That's a good guess, though. During the close, who can get it?
Telling them that they made an educated decision.
You're a closer, man. I love it. No, I'm just kidding. But no, that's a great guess. That's a great guess. But no, that's not it. One more guess.
We have to let the client speak. We have to like be quiet and let them decide.
Yes, let's go. Enrique got it. All right. Guess what it is, right? He said it. It's shut up.
Yeah.
There's a book called Shut Up and Close, because sometimes, good job, Enrique, sometimes people start talking themselves out of sales. So once again, say, I want to think about it real quick. Right? You wait calmly. Right? You go in, you know, real calm, right? You do your 5 steps, right? Then you say, so like I said, we just need to figure out which one makes the most sense to you and which one fits the needs best for you and your family today. If I step out and then I go like this, oh, and real quick, guys, it's 4.5% interest that you're going to earn. It's the best product you can get. It's all whole life. Okay. And then 10 seconds goes by and you're like, oh, by the way, too, and, you know, this decision does have to be made. Dude, you're talking yourself out of the sale at that point. You literally, silence kills. I just told you, right? I've literally been in situations where it's just been awkward. And I promise, I teach you guys how to do this. And I promise you, it's going to be a little awkward. You're going to be there and you might be there for a couple minutes. Like I had one sit, I swear to you, I was in the home. This is when we went in home and I was relatively new. And I swear to you guys. So I'm talking to this guy, just a single guy, right? And I say, I just need to figure out we just need to figure out which option makes the most sense to you and which one fits the need the best for you and your family today. And in person, it was even more awkward because you're right there with the person and you would slide the options over to them, right? So then you go on your computer and you go like this, right? I swear to you, when you do this, you're going to be, I'm not even kidding, you're going to be like a minute feels like an eternity, right? So I'm sitting there and it's, you know, a minute, you know, and I'm like, oh, whatever, you know, I got to stay silent. You know, my manager told me to shut up, right? So I'm sitting there like this, you know, just filling out the app. Dude, it was literally like 6 minutes later. And at this point, it felt like an hour. I'm like, so finally it goes to like 10 minutes and I'm getting all red in the face. You know, I'm nervous. I'm like, so finally I just looked over at him and he wasn't even looking at the options anymore. He's like this, looking at who knows what. I don't even know what he's looking at. And I look at him, right? I look at him. He goes like this. He goes, we just make eye contact. And I look at him. He looks at me and I go, and I looked at the options. And then he goes, I saw with the side of my, like my peripheral, he went. And we both were looking at the options again. He goes, oh, did you want me to pick an option? And I said, yeah. I said, yeah, we just got to figure it out. And he goes with C, right? So dude, I'm telling you, I would train you on this. I watch my trainees do this and I'm like, this is fucking awkward, right? So I promise you, it's going to get weird. It's going to get a little awkward. But you just got to literally just let it happen, let them close themselves. And I promise you, you're going to be able to close these people. So follow that 5-step recipe. Make sure you guys are following this presentation, not this presentation. Make sure that you guys understand that you got to be sold on the 3 areas: yourself, the company, the product. Make sure all the psychology, the little things I went over is applied. And remember, knowledge is not power. All right. It's the implementation that truly creates the power. So make sure that you take this stuff. Let's see who actually implements it. Let's see who actually does it and practices it and makes it happen. So I appreciate you guys. Appreciate your time. I'm excited for you guys. Let's freaking get amped up. I'm going to go head to this meeting real quick because I'm running a few behind. I'll talk to you guys in a little bit. All right.
All right.
Let's go,
Thank
baby.
you, Gio.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.